Okay, try not to ramble on. Not sure if I've said this yet. I'll probably do this in the intro. But there is a lot, we talk about pros and cons. There are a lot of cons to dog rescue. And that's what I'm trying to point out here. I'm not trying to talk anybody out of it or telling you not to take an animal in or do your part or whatever. You do something that makes you feel good. But you've got to have a goal and an end game. You got to have an end game plan. How's this thing going to end? And if you have to make a transition in your life, what if you have to move? If I had to move out of state, if I had 2 or 3 dogs, that might be something. If I got 12, 14 dogs out there, you can't necessarily take 12 dogs out of state. You got complications now. That's just a big deal. So if your life typically changes a lot every couple of years, this is not going to be for you. So I'm trying to point out a lot of the negatives that I've dealt with personally, in case you're thinking of something like this. Nobody told me ahead of time what I was getting into. I was 30-something years old when I got into this. I didn't necessarily, not that I would have listened, but I made a lot of mistakes. Man, I made a lot of mistakes. I'll point one out. If you had, I think at the time I might have had 6 or 7 dogs. I had a dog that got really sick. He did something stupid. He ate something, got a hold of something, chewed it up, and it's got stuck in his system. And I wasn't sure what was wrong with him. Took him into a vet, and it cost thousands of dollars. Had I known ahead of time, I wouldn't have done it. I said, hey, do what you got to do, doc. But this, the way it was set up, the cost just started, like a clock ticking. You don't know ahead of time what it's going to cost. At least this vet wasn't telling me. So when you end up with some animals, you're going to have some idea if something gets sick, how far will you go? How much would you spend on a sick animal? And they never get sick on Monday or Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's Friday or Saturday night at 1 o'clock in the morning. And if you dare ever have to go to an emergency vet hospital, just go empty your bank account, because you ain't getting out of there for under $1,000. So you have to have a plan. If you think, well, if you've got this dog now that you love so much, it's a family member, and I've had friends that have spent just truckloads of cash on a dog. But if you go to the next step, you're in a rescue situation, and you think you're going to love all those dogs like that, you need to back up and stop right there. That ain't going to happen. Because each one of those dogs could have a huge vet bill. So you have to be able to make a decision at some point. This is triage. I've got like 14 dogs out there right now. If something happened and one of them got sick enough and it was going to be a bill in the thousands, I'm not going to be able to feed the rest of those dogs. So you have to decide at one point that, okay, well, vet, here's what we're going to have to do. We're just going to have to turn this one off, because I can't go that route with this one dog and forsake the rest of them financially. I don't make that kind of money. So that's just one instance where somebody said, well, you're in over your head. You're damn right I am. I didn't plan it this way. It's just the way it is. But I'm letting you know so you don't end up in the same position. You don't want to get where you got to have $1,000 vet bill or a couple $1,000 vet bill. Another thing, if you do have a dog that you're having to put thousands of dollars in, that dog's never going to figure out how to cure cancer. He's not going to straighten out the economy. He's not going to, he's a dog. They're a great thing, but they're a dog. You could put thousands of dollars into some kid's education and make a great man out of him, and really help mankind overall. That's something I just kick myself in the butt for sometimes, in some of the money I've spent on dogs when I could have spent it on someone's education. And I love my dogs, but this gets ridiculous after a while. But that's my opinion. Anyhow, you got to have a stop point in mind. So let's say if you're one of the people say, I'd really like to be a dog refuge or rescue, whatever the case is, you better have something in place that if you can't say no to a vet, no to that dog, let's say it's a $500 limit or a $100 limit, and if this dog's $1 over that sick, ain't happening. You'll have to ride this out some other way. You might even have to euthanize the dog. If you can't make decisions like that, don't get over 3 or 4 dogs. Don't do it. because one of them's going to get sick. Fortunately, I've been in cattle long enough, livestock and that sort of thing. We have animals living and being born and dying all the time, and the majority of them we send off to their death. They're going to end up in the freezer, and so you kind of have this mindset that you love to be a part of this thing, this nature, life and death and all that, but everything's going somewhere, and we're just helping it along. We try to treat our animals as humanely as possible, but all that cattle out there eventually is going into the freezer. And so we enjoy them while we can, and we have a plan and we stick to that plan. And that's made it easier for me to deal with sick dogs, sick pets, sick cats, that sort of thing. Because it happens. They're going to get sick. They're going to die. And you can only do so much. I had a friend that had a Rottweiler that needed a new hip. This dog was 8, 9 years old. So they gave her a new hip, was $10,000. Turned around and had the other one done. I didn't complain about my bills after that one. But I'm thinking, well, there's two fools walking around on this earth, me and her. But anyhow, you don't want to get into that kind of mess. You've got to have a goal in mind of what you could spend on this dog. You've got to be able to make that decision. And that's a pretty big deal. Another thing is there is a stigma that you're going to have to deal with. Initially, people see you helping dogs, and they're getting in as, oh man, I'm saving this, I found a home for this, when you got all this dog stuff. But what happens if you end up with a lot of dogs, a lot of pets, you're going to get stigmatized. And it's not going to be, oh, that's my friend, oh, he or she rescues and does all this kind of thing. Pretty soon they're like, that's my friend with all those stinking dogs. Well, that's my friend that's got all those cats. We don't go, you get this stigma. The shiny, polishy, humanitarian, I'm a dog rescue individual, that doesn't last very long. So if you're doing this for some form of recognition, which I actually believe most people are, if this is some sort of look at me kind of thing, get it somewhere else. You ain't going to get it for the dog rescue thing, because it's not going to last, and you're going to be stuck with these dogs. Another thing, if you're not that kind of person, but you're kind of thin-skinned where someone's criticism is going to affect you, you better do this on the sly or not do it at all. Because you will get criticism from people that mean well. Well, I had someone try to introduce me to a woman who they figured I needed a relationship, because that's what I was lacking. Had I a relationship, I wouldn't have had all these dogs. This is someone I know a long time. And then you'll even have people that said, well, if you stopped doing this, if you did this over here, then you could just get rid of the dogs. Why don't you put your time over here doing good, a boat, go fishing, then just get rid of the dogs. And I'm like, could you get rid of your kids? I've met their kids. A lot of them would be good for them if they could get rid of their kids. But you come up to someone like that, tell them to get rid of their kids. Hey, if you get rid of your kids, you could go to the coast every weekend. There's people I've known a long time. This was their fix, So most people won't understand why you do it. They don't see what you get out of it. They see all the negative, and there is a lot of negative to it. But if you can't handle people's comments like that, if you can't handle their criticisms or hey, here's what you need to do, that's the one I just can't stand. Hey, here's what you ought to do. And you don't have to ask for it. They'll just offer that for free. But at the end of the day, it's just, if you choose to do this, make sure you have a plan. I can operate this many dogs. I can house this many. It's not going to necessarily break me. I can, maybe afford this much vet. It won't piss the neighbors off too much. Or maybe I can do this somewhat on the stealth. But you got to consider those things. So we've talked about vet bills. We've talked about people's reaction to you, how they'll see you, because it's going to change. We've also talked about the Animal Planet crowd calling the SPCA on you. We called about the anti-dog rescue crowd calling the SPCA on you, and the such. So that's a couple things we want to cover there. So we'll do another video.